Week 17 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I looked at this week. The first guy, Yan Gomes, of the Chicago Cubs. So Yan Gomes, over the last few weeks, he's really getting things going. And we know catcher is one of the weakest positions, if not the weakest position, in fantasy baseball. So on the season for the veteran catcher, 9 home runs, 40 RBIs, 31 runs scored, a stolen base, a 274 average, and a 317 on base. But the last 2 weeks here, he's been on fire. 1 home run, 11 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 326 average, and a 380 on base. So right now, Yan Gomes, he's out there in 88% of fantasy leagues. And if you need help at catcher, he can help you in a big way. And he's been a big part of this Cubs resurgence over the last 2 weeks. July 26th at the White Sox, 1 for 2. July 27th at the Cardinals, 2 for 4, 3 RBIs. July 28th at the Cardinals, 1 for 3. July 29th at the Cardinals, 1 for 4, homer, 2 RBIs. And July 30th at the Cardinals, 2 for 4. So right now he's playing good baseball. He's got 3 multiple hit games in the last week here, Yan Gomes. And like I said, catcher's a weak position. And right now, he's playing great baseball. If you need a catcher, I would give him an ad this week. Obviously, I don't see him keeping it up. The remainder of the season is Gomes on the way he's going. But right now, I would definitely pick him up this week. The next hit is Sal Frelick of the Milwaukee Brewers. I mentioned Frelick is an ad last week, and he's one of the top prospects in this system. And so far, he's been off to a pretty decent start in about 2 weeks of his major league career. On the season for Frelick, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, 8 runs scored, a 328 batting average, and a 461 on base. So far, pretty solid numbers for Frelick. Not a lot of people ran out to the wire and got him. Still out there in 59% of fantasy leagues, and he can do it all, is Frelick. He's a 5-2 type of player. He can steal some bases, he can show some power, he can hit for batting average. And now, obviously, with the Brewers in a pennant and wild card race here, he's come up over the last few weeks, and so far he's been pretty solid. July 24th versus the Reds, 1 for 3, a homer. July 25th versus the Reds, 0 for 0, walked in that one with a run scored. July 26th versus the Reds, 0 for 3, a run. July 28th at the Braves, 2 for 4, 3 runs scored. July 29th at the Braves, 0 for 3 with a rib. And July 30th at the Braves, 0 for 4. So that Braves series is a little bit of a struggle here. But I think things will get right once again here for Frelick with a great matchup at the Washington Nationals, who we know are one of the worst teams in the league. And their pitching staff hasn't really been good besides Josiah Gray and Mackenzie Gore this season. So right now, Frelick, like I said, one of the top prospects in baseball, especially to come up over the last few weeks here. And he's getting the everyday opportunity right now with the Brewers. And I would give him an ad this week. Next hitter, Wilmer Flores of the San Francisco Giants. I mentioned Flores in ad last week. And right now, still out there in 57% of fantasy leagues. On the season, 13 home runs, 34 RBIs, 32 runs scored, a surprising 297 average, and a 357 on base. And over the last 2 weeks, Flores, he's been one of the better hitters in fantasy baseball. 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, 9 runs scored, 400 average, and a 457 on base. So Flores, we know, is very versatile. First, second, and third, he qualifies here for fantasy baseball. He plays every day, and this batting average has definitely jumped up in a big way with obviously less shifting now in baseball, where he's a dead pull hitter, obviously. July 25th versus the A's, 0 for 2, a run. July 26th versus the A's, 1 for 4, a run. July 28th versus the Red Sox, 1 for 4. July 29th versus the Red Sox, 3 for 5 with a rib. And July 30th versus the Red Sox, 2 for 5 with an RBI. So right now, he's hitting the baseball well with at least 6 hits in the last 7 games. Here's Wilmer Flores. He's got power, which he's always been a power guy, but like I said, this season, the batting average is bumped up huge, 40, 50 points, and the on-base percentage as well. So right now, well, he's out there in 57% of fantasy leagues. A very versatile player and one of the main hitters on the San Francisco Giant team. He's definitely a hitter I look to give an ad to this week. The next hitter, Randal Grichuk of the Colorado Rockies. So Grichuk, he definitely could be a player on the move at the deadline here. And at the time of recording this video, might be on the move as well. So Grichuk right now available in 83% of fantasy leagues. And on the season here, 8 home runs, 27 RBIs, 40 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 312 average, and a 367 on base. So another player with his batting average bumped way up this season here. In the last couple weeks, he's almost a hitter you can't get out, is Grichuk. 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, 7 runs scored, a 382 average, and a 382 on base. So right now, he's not walking a lot. These numbers obviously aren't going to hold up, but if he does get traded to a contender, where he could bat a little down in the lineup here and show some pop for a team here. I think that could be decent as well. And we always knew he's a 20-25 home run hitter with potential. Is Grichuk as well. July 24th at the Nats, 3 for 5, 2 runs a rib. July 25th at the Nats, 2 for 4 run. July 26th at the Nats, 0 for 4. July 28th versus Oakland, 1 for 5 a homer. July 29th versus Oakland, 3 for 4 a homer. And July 30th versus the A's, 0 for 3. So right now he's showing some power as Grichuk. Like I said, he's always had that 20-25 home run potential. And this season, he's definitely got a high batting average. I know it's a little bit of a smaller sample size, but still on the year, hitting 312 and 237 at-bats is pretty legit to me. So right now, while he's still out there in tons of fantasy leagues at 83%, I definitely give Grichuk an edge. He's going to have power. This season, he's got batting average. And that's what you want to see. And at this point of the year, you need hitters like that to go on a run and possibly help you win a championship in fantasy baseball. The next hitter, Jake Burger of the Chicago White Sox. So you want to talk about power. Jake Burger this season is putting up monster power numbers with 25 home runs, 52 RBIs, 44 runs scored, a stolen base, a 216 average, and a 279 on base. And Burger of the White Sox, he's a typical power hitter with 100 strikeouts on the year in 291 at-bats and a low batting average. But right now, the White Sox, they pretty much traded all their guys they had to get rid of. And Burger's going to be an everyday guy for the remainder of the season, and rightfully so, even though he's been pretty much since May is Burger, especially when Makoto went out with injury, even though he's been back now over the last couple weeks. So Burger right now available still in tons of fantasy leagues. He's on pace for 35-40 home runs out there. Like I said, in 74% of fantasy leagues, that's a lot for a guy with his power potential. In the last couple weeks, 5 home runs, 10 ribs, 8 RBIs, the 186 average, and the 286 on base. So yes, batting average is definitely going to hurt fantasy owners. But if you want to give that up and obviously sacrifice it for home runs and RBIs, it's something you should do. July 25th versus the Cubs, 0 for 3. July 26th versus the Cubs, 1 for 4 a homer. 7th versus the Guardians, and that one 2 for 3, 2 homers, 3 RBIs. July 28th versus the Guardians, 1 for 3 a homer. July 29th versus the Guardians, 0 for 2 a run. And July 30th versus the Guardians, 0 for 3. So right now, yes, he's going to strike out a lot. Batting average isn't going to be much out of Burger. But if you're looking for power and RBIs, he's definitely going to bring that to owners. And right now, he's out there in 74% of fantasy league, and he's top 10 in home runs in the league this season. Next hit is Trevor Story of the Boston Red Sox. I've mentioned Story now 2 weeks in a row, and he can return any day now or in a week or two at latest. Available right now, Story in 48% of fantasy leagues. So Story last season, he showed good power, he showed stolen bases and RBIs, just put low batting average. Last year, 16 home runs, 66 RBIs, 13 bags, 53 runs scored, a 238 average, and a 308 on base. So right now, this Red Sox team, they could use him in the top part of the lineup. Here's Trevor Story. We know he's got pop, going back to his Rocky days. We know he could steal bases, and playing in Fenway Park is obviously a hitter's haven with the Green Monster over there in left field with 310 down the line, and even in right field, the pesky pole. So right there, that obviously stadium plays good to power hitters. And we know Story has power, and obviously he's a second baseman, which is one of the worst positions in fantasy baseball as well. So Story, if he's back in a week or two, that's a good add for your fantasy roster for the stretch run. That'll take you to about 3 or 4 weeks left before your fantasy playoffs. So right now, if you're looking for kind of a lottery ticket and a little bit of a boost, I think Trevor Story could bring that to fantasy owners. And right now, he's available, like I said, in 48% of fantasy leagues. The next hit is Yainer Diaz of the Houston Astros. So right now, Diaz is a catcher, but he was DHing a lot until Alvarez came back of late. But he's got legit power numbers as Diaz. 13 home runs, 31 RBIs, 27 runs scored, a 265 average, and a 282 on base. So yes, Diaz, there's a pitch he does not like. He don't walk at all. Here is Diaz. He's a free swinger, but 13 home runs from the catcher position is definitely solid. And over the last month of the season, great stats in terms of power. 6 home runs, 14 RBIs, 11 runs scored, a 247 average, and a 273 on base. So right now, Diaz, the main catcher over there for this Houston Astros team. He's playing 5-6 days a week, which is a great thing to see. And like I said, catcher is one of the weakest positions, if not the weakest, in fantasy baseball. And I believe he is a top 12 catcher as Diaz. for the remainder of the year. Right now, he's available in 81% of leagues. July 24th versus the Rangers, 1 for 4, 2 RBIs. July 25th versus the Rangers, 0 for 3. July 26th versus the Rangers, 1 for 3, a homer, 2 ribs. July 28th versus the Rays, 0 for 1. And July 29th versus the Rays, and that one, 2 for 5, a homer, 3 RBIs. And 2 runs scored in the 30th. He sat out with the day after night game. So right now, he's showing power. He's driving in runs. This Astro team, it just seems like year in, year out, they'll lose a few guys in free agency or whatever, but it's next man up, and we saw it this season with Diaz and Chase McCormick. So right now, well, he's out there in tons of fantasy leagues. I give him an ad this week. The next hit is Joey Meneses, the Washington Nationals. So Meneses, it's been another solid season here for a guy, obviously, who's spent the majority of his career in the minor leagues. After last season coming up finally, and he was tearing it up in the second half of the Nats. On the season for Meneses, 7 home runs, 55 RBIs, 41 runs scored, a 281 average, and a 323 on base. So right now, I know the numbers aren't all that great here for Meneses, but he's playing every day for this national team, showing decent batting average, 55 RBIs in the season. He easily could finish with 75 to 80 RBIs. And like I said, this Nat team don't have much in that lineup. So right now, he's hitting in a prime position, third or fourth, obviously, is Meneses. July 25th versus the Rockies, 3 for 4, a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. July 26th versus the Rockies, 1 for 4. July 27th at the Mets, 1 for 4. July 29th at the Mets, 2 for 5, 2 runs, 2 ribs. And July 30th at the Mets, it was a bad ball game, 0 for 4 with 3 Ks. But he's going to show average. He's going to drive in some runs. I know the power is down here for Meneses, but like I said, he's still on a major league team where he's batting in a prime position at third or fourth. And he can help fantasy owners, and he qualifies at first and outfield as well. The next hitter, Marcell Ozuna of the Atlanta Braves. So right now, Ozuna, at this point of his career, he's pretty much a DH and pretty much a power hitter who's going to hit a home run or strikeouts. On the season for Ozuna, 22 home runs, 49 RBIs, 45 runs scored at 235 average, and a 307 on base. So right now, pure power is what it's about with Ozuna. And over the last week now, he's hit 4 home runs in the week with 6 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a 300 average, and a 333 on base. He's the classic street power hitter, is Marcell Ozuna, and he's on pace to finish the year with 30-plus home runs. So right now, he's batting 6th or 7th usually in this Brave lineup. He's got 4 home runs in the last 3 games. He's getting hot right now, and he's available in tons of fantasy leagues. If you're just looking for power in RBIs, is Ozuna in 67% of leagues. Of the last few games for him, July 23rd at the Brew Crew, 0 for 4. July 25th at the Red Sox, 1 for 4. July 26th at the Red Sox, 0 for 4. 28th versus the Brewers, 2 for 4, a homer in that one, 3 runs scored. July 29th versus the Brewers, 3 for 4, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 3 runs scored. And July 30th versus the Brewers in that one, 1 for 3 with a homer in that ball game. So right now he's on a power tear, Ozuna. Like I said, every season, 30, 35 home run potential for him. And that's the pace he's been on. And to be in a lineup with great hitters like Matt Olson, who's having a monster year, 35 homers. Austin Riley, who's really tearing it up since the All-Star break, finished up. Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, just all-star type of hitters on this team. And teams obviously are giving Ozuna good pitches because they got to worry about all the guys I've mentioned. So right now, well, he's out there in tons of fantasy leagues and showing power once again. He's definitely a pickup this week. And the final hit I looked at off the wire is Josh Outman of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Josh Outman, I know it's been an up-and-down season. He got off to a roaring start to start the year. But now the numbers have leveled off a little bit here. 12 home runs, 44 RBIs, 52 runs scored, a 248 average, and a 344 on base. So he's going to give you some stolen bases, 12 on the season. To finish the year with 20 home runs, 65, 70 RBIs. And over the last couple weeks here, he's been solid. 1 home run, 4 RBIs, 6 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 306 average, and a 468 on base. So he's getting a better eye at the plate. I know he's striking out a ton with 117 Ks in 307 at-bats here. Is Josh Outman, and he's not going to verse lefties most nights, but a guy who's going to show power and play a solid center field for the Dodgers and a young and up-and-coming player still. I think he could bring a lot to fantasy owners at this part of the season. And a guy will go out there and add available in 59% of leagues. July 24th versus the Jays, 0 for 3. July 25th versus the Jays, 3 for 3. a run, a rib, a stolen base. July 26th versus the Blue Jays, 2 for 4 an RBI. July 28th versus the Reds in that one, pinched hit, 0 for 1 a run, stolen base, and drew a walk. July 29th versus the Reds, 0 for 2. And July 30th versus the Reds, 1 for 3. So it was a tough series for this Dodger team, losing 2 out of 3 to the Cincinnati Reds. But now I think things will get better, obviously, versus the Oakland A's coming up, the worst team in the league here right now. So Alvin available in 59% of leagues. He's hitting the baseball well, cutting down a little bit on the strikeouts, has a good eye at the plate. And I'd give him an add this week, so that's a few hitters I look to add here in already week 17 of the fantasy baseball season.